Hello and welcome to the Armenian News Network Groong Week in Review. This show was recorded on August 7th, 2023. I'm Asbed Bedrossian and I'm here together with Hovik Manucharyan. Today we're going to focus mostly on the Russian and Iranian perspectives on the geopolitics of the Armenian-Azeri negotiations around Artsakh and their mutual borders. To talk about this, we have with us Sergei Melkonian, who is an expert at the Russian International Affairs Council. He has worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation and has served as an assistant to former President of Armenia, Armen Sarkisyan, on Russia and Middle East politics. Sergei is CEO and chief editor of the analytical portal International Studies and a co-founder of the Armenian Project NGO. Welcome back, Sergei. It's always a great pleasure to talk with you.
Hi, Sergei.
Bari Eriko.
Sergei, anyone who follows the politics around the South Caucasus knows that the relations between Armenia and Russia haven't been peachy recently. Earlier this week, Russian MFA spokesperson Maria Zakharova chided the Armenian government, specifically Pashinyan, for saying that Russia has scaled back its involvement and etc., etc. Russia has also bristled at Pashinyan's suggestion that productive dialogue, in quotes, between Baku and Stepanakert could lead to the withdrawal of the Russian peacekeepers. She responded to Pashinyan by asking, "Is this the wish? I would also like to know that." Just to highlight how ridiculous this statement is, by the way, let's remind that Pashinyan is saying that at the same time that Azerbaijan is kidnapping Armenians at the border checkpoints, taking them to Baku for sham trials, and holding them as war criminals on fabricated charges. We know Russia is busy in Ukraine, but can you discuss Russia's evolving foreign policy calculations in the South Caucasus? What is important for Russia in Armenia and Artsakh and Azerbaijan?
Okay. Thank you. It's a really complicated question. I'll try to separate it in couple parts. Okay, first, what about Russia's statement towards Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, towards Artsakh? First, there is an agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan that Armenia shouldn't take any actions towards Nagorno-Karabakh, as Armenia recognizes it as a part of Azerbaijan. So from Baku's point of view, any Armenian sentiments or actions towards Artsakh are violating Azerbaijani's territorial integrity. This is why Armenia has no any legal tools to do anything regarding Nagorno-Karabakh. And also Armenia is not able to discuss future Nagorno-Karabakh with Russia, because from Baku's point of view and Russia's and Moscow's point of view, this is part of Azerbaijan after Armenia's statement. So Armenia limited and reduced its, let's say, toolkit to do anything to save its citizens, to save Armenians in Artsakh today. Second, coming back to Russia's statements, there was also one statement from it was head of first CIS department of Russian MFA. As far as I know, he's Armenian, at least his father. This department is responsible for all multilateral process and post-Soviet space, CIS, CSTO, Eurasian Economic Union, etc. And head of this department stated a couple of days ago that why does Armenia Russia, why it's hurry to in a peace race, why Armenia wants to reach a peace deal so soon? What is the necessity to do a lot of unilateral, let's call it unilateral concessions? Because any peace deal that is reached in a short term, it's not effective in a long-term run. So it was a kind of call to Armenian side, hey guys, please, you take your time, think again, etc., etc. This is good sign for us. But this is bad sign for Russia. Why did Russia did such statement? Because Russia lost its monopoly of its mediator monopoly, because Russia states like every month that there is no alternative rather than trilateral statements on highest level between Russia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. So it means that they do not have any real working agenda, any real platform for negotiations where agreement might be reached. This is about Russia's position in negotiations process. So third, what about crisis, humanitarian disaster in Artsakh? We see, like a couple hours ago, Russian peacekeepers rejected to Artsakh's population to have a peace rally, and they rejected to accompany, to provide any cortege or something other stuff to ensure their security through Lachin corridor. It means that Russians are not able to fulfill their obligations based on November 9 statement regarding Lachin corridor and the zone around Lachin corridor. And they explained 2 weeks ago, I had a private conversation with some high-level officials. They explained that they are fully limited after Nikol Pashinyan's statement when he recognized Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan. And from their perspective, they cannot fill these obligations on the ground because Azer's position is, okay, we recognize Lachin corridor as part of Azerbaijan. Armenia recognized Lachin corridor de jure and de facto as a part of Azerbaijan. What is your mandate to do this or another stuff on Lachin corridor or in and around Artsakh? So they are not only busy in Ukraine, yet obviously their military capabilities, administrative, economic, and others, they are located on Ukraine, but also because of statements and actions from our Armenian officials, also limit not only Armenia and also Russians and Armenians in Artsakh.
Sergei, when you're talking about the protests in Artsakh, are you talking about the most recent attempt to essentially walk and march through the Berzor or Lachin corridor, which, if I recall, this group was led by Artur Osipian, who has been colloquially known as the Soros-Lakan leader in Artsakh. No offense to Soros-Lakans, but they have been generally anti-Russian in an area whose Armenian existence depends on the Russians, in my opinion. The Russian peacekeepers said that they cannot guarantee the security of the protesters. Meanwhile, the Stepanakert government had promised buses to drive these people to the point of the protest in a time when there is, people are talking about famine, when there is no gas to use for agriculture. And once the Russian peacekeepers denied the provision of security for these protesters, they were criticized, and Russia was criticized. And we also can't forget about Asbed Bedrossian, who has been appointed by Arek Harutyunyan as a so-called, head of the crisis or emergency center, who is notably very anti-Russian in his speech. And one of the main tasks of this crisis center is interacting with Russian peacekeepers. But he has recently alleged that Russia is colluding with Azerbaijan to essentially hand off Artsakh to Azerbaijan. So are these views that Russia is colluding with Azerbaijan becoming more and more legitimate? Is Russia worried about this perception? Is it real or is it manufactured, in your opinion?
I don't know about this, Marsh, but I know that the previous one, when humanitarian aid was provided from some organizations in Armenia, and then one candidate also joined this initiative. As far as I know from Russian peacekeepers, all this program was not coordinated with them. So they heard that their humanitarian aid from Armenia was preparing and it's going towards Lachin corridor a couple hours before they reached Lachin corridor. So they didn't even were informed that they had to provide ensure their security or provide other assistance to pass Lachin corridor. And they heard it first from Armenia side, then from Azeri side. So Azeri side was better informed than Russian peacekeepers because they're not so much involved in monitoring everything that is going on in Armenia. This is bad for them because I raised this issue many times. Like, who are Russian peacekeepers? Yeah, we have only Lentsov, head of this peacekeeper contingent, and we don't have any press secretary or other person that we can try to contact to have a deal or something else. So we don't have we have nobody there. So this is their problem. So this is not really good organized. That's first. Second, many of them, I cannot talk on behalf of Russian peacekeepers, but I know that some of them, not many of them, but some of them, there is lack of trust between Russian peacekeepers and some activists from Artsakh. Because, for example, I forgot this person's name and surname. He was appointed as an advisor, some decision maker. He was, as you told, he was the best well-known Sorosakhan in Artsakh. So yeah, he was appointed as a head of
Bedrossian.
Yeah, as a head of crisis group or something else. So they were really surprised, like, okay, if you are not going to coordinate any such appointments, any such decisions, but please, like, inform us in advance or provide some any guide how to be in touch or cooperate with them. So they do not have any real experience of working in such situations. And the problem is, as far as I understood when I was in Moscow, really they are not. I mean, decision makers in Moscow, they are not so good informed about the situation on the ground. Okay. Yes, this is problem of Russian peacekeepers, that they didn't inform so good their decision makers and different centers who involved in decision making process. But it's also our problem that we couldn't really good inform Russians who are in charge of ensuring security and providing guarantees of free movement on Lachin corridor. So they really are not good informed. And I heard like from many even experts, like, but as far as we know, there are some opportunities to reach Artsakh from Armenia, like, but these guys, they are the experts on South Caucasus, the experts on Armenia, the experts on Artsakh, and they are also not good informed. Wow. So we have a lot of work to do, I mean, on this way, because these people, they write their proposals to decision makers. What do they write? I don't even know. Like,
Sergei, this past week, a simmering issue again came to the front of the news again. That's the row between Armenia and the CSTO. The CSTO again stated that it expected a positive response from Armenia so that they may deploy help, quote, to the maximum benefit, unquote, of Armenia. And Pashinyan again stated that CSTO members must first condemn Azerbaijan as an aggressor to the conflict before a positive response. At the same time, the Pashinyan regime again declined to participate in yet another CSTO joint exercise, this time in Belarus. So, do you think that this whole issue is a PR standoff where both sides are trying to show up the other, or is one side more justified in their point than the other?
I'm not sure. I see the trend that Armenia is going to freeze. Armenia freezed its membership in CSTO. So Armenia, de jure, is part of CSTO, but de facto it isn't. So Armenia doesn't conduct military drills, CSTO military drills in Armenia. Armenia rejected to get appointment of one person in CSTO. Armenia rejected to participate in military drills in another CSTO member country. So Armenia is not member of CSTO like on the ground. Yeah, on the paper, Armenia is still member of CSTO. And we can try to come back on different narratives that were spreading in Armenian media, like until Armenia is member of CSTO, Armenia is not able to get weapons from another countries, moreover from NATO member states.
Right.
But it's not true. Yeah, being member of CSTO in 2013 and even before that, Armenia got a lot of weapons also from NATO member states, like from Slovakia and other countries. But the problem is, most probably, some Armenian partners raise this issue, and that wasn't raised before. Okay, guys, until you are a member of CSTO, we will not provide any weapon or military assistance. And probably decision makers in Armenia decided to not leave CSTO, but to freeze its membership and to get some benefits from the West. Because I don't have any other, let's say, explanations why we reject to get military assistance from CS2. Yeah, we have, for example, we opened Consulate General of Russia in Sunni. We opened Consulate General of Iran in Sunni. Armenia is going to open French consulate in Sunni. So Sunni is like most internalized region of Armenia. So we're outsourcing all our like security in Sunni to all other countries, but we have opportunity to get some aid from CSTO. We reject, but we don't get any other benefit from that. So we don't get even some NATO weapon, some NATO advisors, nothing.
So how does Russia see the point that Pashinyan is trying to push, that if there's not a condemnation of Azerbaijan, then he doesn't know what military presence by the CSTO would present as a benefit when, for example, the leadership of the CSTO has not said who is the aggressor. So are those peacekeepers defending Armenia from Azerbaijan or defending Azerbaijan from Armenia? How does Russia see this argument?
Russia doesn't see it as an argument because for sure, both Russia and Armenia, they know that Azerbaijan was aggressor during September 2022. And the problem is that Armenia wants some political statements rather than security guarantees from Russia. Russia is not ready to push its all allies, I mean, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and other countries that became, so they are more allies for Azerbaijan rather for Armenia. And it's important to record that this is success of Azerbaijani diplomacy and failure of Armenian diplomacy. And that your allies on paper, in fact, they are more allies of your enemy. Yeah, and for sure, Russia has not political capabilities to push all CSTO members to do such statement. That's impossible for it. But at the same time, they are ready to provide assistance. When I was talking with previous, he's not working anymore in CSTO, persons who was working in CSTO secretary, he told that the CSTO mission, observing mission, is still on the agenda. So Armenia didn't ruin this point, and Armenia stated that we are ready to continue to discuss some technical details of this mission deployment. So for Russia, this is not the red line. It's okay. I mean, they're okay with that, that Armenia is still ready to continue to discuss the deployment of this mission.
Sergei, before we move on, any last comments on the trajectory of Russian foreign policy in the region, including maybe even Russia-Turkey relations? What, any interesting feedback that you can provide to us from your visits there?
Mm-hmm. I was talking about Russia-Turkey relations on South Caucasus and post-Soviet space, because my conversation was a couple days after statements from Turkey that Russian peacekeepers should leave Nagorno-Karabakh after 2025. Then Russian MFA officials stated that Turkey is not part of trilateral statement, so it's not your business.
Yes.
And private discussion, they told that we don't have any illusions towards Russia, Turkey, some so-called ally sentiments. We know that we are competitors on the South Caucasus. Turkey want to kick out Russian peacekeepers from Nagorno-Karabakh. Turkey want to get more presence in Nagorno-Karabakh after peacekeepers withdraw, because they insisted on this point during negotiations during the 2020 war. They wanted to have the same presence in Nagorno-Karabakh that Russia has today. And they told that our diplomats and Putin during negotiations, they pushed back Turkey. And the only thing that we agreed is having a mutual observing point in Agdam, and that's it. And Turkey is continuing to raise its stakes, probably to get a multilateral deal. I'll try to explain. So Russia has a couple options for 2025. First, both sides, I mean Armenia and Azerbaijan, they agreed to have Russian peacekeepers for 5 years more. This is first option. Second option, one of two sides, they're not ready to have Russian peacekeepers anymore. After that, Russian peacekeepers, they have to withdraw Nagorno-Karabakh, and Russia, and the only way for Russia to keep its peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh is reaching a bilateral deal with Azerbaijan. Like Russia-Azerbaijan, bilateral agreements, etc., etc. And now we have one more actor, it's Turkey, that can suggest its own option, like we will have joint Russian, Turkish peacekeepers contingent in Nagorno-Karabakh. Probably Turkey is rising stakes to enlarge its presence in Artsakh in 2 years.
Sergei, are Turkish leaders trying to basically present the Turkish co-peacekeeping role as a potential sugarcoat that would be acceptable to Azerbaijan? In any case, why would Azerbaijan even accept this proposal? Because they are already seen as vassals for Turkey, and now this would increase their dependence on their big brother.
From Azerbaijani perspective, it's much more better to have all Artsakh under their control. But if they have options, having only Russian peacekeepers or having both Russian and Turkish peacekeepers, for them it's better option, because they will have one more tool to make a pressure on Russia. First. Second, security domain, Azerbaijani, not fully, but around 80%, it depends on Turkey. I mean, intelligence, border troops, all their special forces, etc., etc. And Turkey, for example, they can put on the agenda next point. We have a lot of investment in Nagorno-Karabakh. Still, there are so-called separatists. We need to ensure our investments. Yeah, because there are only three countries that are investing in occupied Artsakh territories: Turkey, Great Britain, and Israel. So there is no any other external financial or other presence in Artsakh occupied territories. But Azerbaijani side, they are preparing for fully Russian withdrawal. But if Turkey put on agenda that they want to have their presence or they want to enlarge their presence, for Azerbaijan it will be complicated to maneuver somehow.
Would a Turkish presence essentially assure a counterbalance to the Russian presence for Azerbaijan?
Yeah, for sure. This balance will be shifted in favor of Azerbaijan. It will be one more step toward kicking out Russians from the region.
I hesitate asking this because Armenia's leadership, for the lack of any other qualifier, I would say would be viewed as constantly making irrational decisions. But what are Armenia's interests here, and what room is there for Armenia to maneuver? We always say that if only this government resigned, there would be a possibility to improve Armenia's relationship with Russia. But how much can that relationship improve when we're openly discussing the potential for Turkey to actually put troops in Artsakh? What are your thoughts on this? Is Russia actively considering the Turkish offer?
No, Russia is not going to have any deal with Turkey on Artsakh. Russian position was we will keep away Turkey from Nagorno-Karabakh case. So this is not their business. So they're not going to cooperate with them in the South Caucasus like that. That's for sure.
And I think about 2 weeks ago, they were very quick to offer a response to Erdogan's comment about the Russian peacekeepers leaving in 2025. They immediately said that this is not something that Turkey has any business in, as a matter of fact, same words.
But to clarify, it is Turkey's intention, at least, to negotiate with Russia based on this goal of, putting its peacekeepers in Artsakh.
The problem is that even today, it was Anadolu or some other Turkish agencies. They announced that during meeting between Putin and Erdogan, that they have an agenda about Ukraine, etc., etc. And on the agenda, there was also Armenia-Azerbaijan peace deal and Armenia-Turkey peace deal. I don't know what they're going to discuss there, but it's clear that at least Russia and Turkey have South Caucasus on their bilateral agenda.
Sergei, you have been traveling a lot recently. So besides Russia, you have also been to Iran, and I think you are just back from your trip last week. So let's talk about our southern neighbor a little bit. Many analysts believe that the only reason why Azerbaijan has not yet attacked Armenia to take Sunik is due to Iran's strong resistance to the so-called Zangezur corridor. Many also believe that because of Ukraine, Russia has quietly outsourced this component of security to Iran. However, Iran recently called on Russia to wake up in the South Caucasus and deal with critical security matters before it's too late. So we're interested, what is Iran alluding to? Are things approaching sort of a critical red zone? And what else can you tell us from your discussions with Iranian, analysts? And who else did you have meetings with, if you can tell us about that?
Okay, thank you. Iranian position is much more clear rather than Russian. That's for sure.
Okay.
I disagree with the point that Russia outsourced its security around Sunik to Iran for several reasons. First, Russia only partly outsourced some security areas in Syria, where they allies with Iran against Turkey, United States, etc., etc. But Russia is not ready to fully outsource security and other domains to Iran in Syria. So Russia is not ready to do it in South Caucasus, where Russia sees the region as its zone of interest rather than Syria.
Right.
First, Russia was the second country who opened consulate in Sunik. It did after Iran did it. So there is so if Turkey and Russia are competitors for the South Caucasus, the same is not. I mean, in Russia-Iran relation is not the same. They have a way of cooperation comparing with Russia-Turkey, but we see like some competing, small competing notes.
Right.
This about Russia and Iran. For Iran, it's unclear Russian strategy in the region. That was the like number one question from Iranian side, what Russians are doing in Armenia, South Caucasus in general. So for them, that was really complicated to understand.
Sergei, I actually have the same question. What are the Russians doing in South Caucasus?
For Iranians, it's Russian position regarding so-called Zangezur corridor is still unclear. They have two points of view. First, Russia doesn't care about Zangezur corridor because this project is far from its border, and they do not see a real threat to their security and to its interest, to their interest. And second, Russia might benefit somehow from Zangezur corridor. This is why it doesn't opposite to this project. They have only these 2 points. This is about Zangezur corridor. What about Syunik? In general, they see that Russian military presence is increasing. Russian diplomatic presence is increasing. So Russia didn't appoint any diplomats from Moscow to Syunik, but they decided to appoint some diplomats from their embassy in Yerevan to Syunik in order to not lose the time and have their diplomatic presence there. But they cannot explain Russia, Azerbaijan, and Russia-Turkey cooperation in the region. So for them, it's unclear.
Okay, is Russian adjacency to Iran through Armenia, through Syunik, obviously, an important strategic vector for Russian and Iranian foreign policies? The Zangezur corridor obviously blocks that adjacency. So I'm just kind of interested in knowing this. Does Russia see its connection to Iran through Armenia as an important foreign policy advantage?
I see that for Iran, this is much more important rather than for Russia. Because Iran signed an FTA agreement with Eurasian Economic Union. And the only region that's bordering with, only region of Eurasian Economic Union that is bordering with Iran is Syunik, is Armenia. So Iran can reach Eurasian Economic Union countries or from Armenia or from Caspian Sea. Russia, as I see, doesn't pay so much attention to this case. This is why this is unclear for Iran. So, guys, if you asked us to have an FTA agreement with Eurasian Economic Union, why you don't have pay so much attention to Armenia and to Syunik? Why you don't care about so-called Zangezur corridor? Why you have so good relations with Turkey that provide weapon to Ukraine, etc., etc. So for Iranians, that was unclear, that they couldn't understand Russians in general. This is why that was interesting. They asked Armenians to organize some trilateral format, Armenia, Russia, Iran, in order to discuss South Caucasus issues in Armenia.
That's very interesting.
Is this sort of track 2 diplomacy or track 1.5 diplomacy? Did you have interactions with any working members of government?
Yeah, we had a meeting with Deputy MFA. We had meeting with the think tanks that provide their recommendations to different decision-making centers. This is both track 2 and track 1.5 diplomacy.
Yeah.
The same was with Russians. So we can work on this way, but the problem is that this work will will go another way comparing with the current Armenian foreign policy strategy.
Interesting. Yeah, sorry, if you have anything to add, let me ask another question and you can add to that. So also tell us, what do you think about the newly appointed ambassador to Armenia, Mehdi Sobhani, who presented his credentials to Hovik Manucharyan just a week ago? I believe he has a rich history, including an ambassador to an important country, to Iran at least, as Syria. How do you, I guess, juxtapose the importance of Armenia to Iran and then sort of the weakness of the Armenia and Russia relations? Anything finally you can say on that?
You mean Iranian ambassador that was recently appointed to Armenia?
Yes. Yeah. Are you Mehdi Sobhani?
No, I didn't met him yet, but as far as I know, he has experience of working in Yemen. This is a bad sign for us. I mean, because probably he was in charge of organizing some resistance groups, etc., etc. Like, yeah.
He has experience in a flashpoint from
and
the
Syria
perspective
well,
of Iran
which is also
and Syria. Yeah.
The same is why we pay attention only to Iran. We have newly appointed French ambassador to Armenia. He was working in Iraqi Kurdistan in Erbil for a long time. So he's also was working in the flashpoints as you told. So Iranian position is like, that was our mistake. I mean, 2024, that we didn't pay so much attention to the South Caucasus. Now, Armenia and South Caucasus, they are in top 3 or top 5 of our foreign policy priorities. Before that, it was not even in top 10. Yeah, because they had Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, etc., Yemen, a nuclear deal with the US, etc. Now they will pay more attention. I saw, comparing with my visit last year, I saw that they have much more political will to resist Zangezur corridor. If year before there were discussions what they should do, there was like, let's call them civilian wing. Their position was we had to have an invitation, so-called invitation from Armenia to defend Sunik, etc. The position of military wing was like, we shouldn't wait any sentiments from Armenia to defend Sunik. Now they, as I saw, they have some unified position that we shouldn't wait any Armenians' actions or inactions. If there is a direct threat to Sunik, we should keep it. This is both. This is a good and at the same time a bad sign for us. A good sign that, okay, even if Iranians will keep Sunik, we will have Armenian presence. We will have Armenians in Sunik. Yeah, because if Sunik is under Turkey and Azerbaijani control, we won't have any Armenians there. But the problem is that if we have a large Iranian military presence in Sunik, we're a failed state.
That is a surprise to me, like the sentiment that you described, because many of the analysts that I have tried to follow over the recent years, they have said that, for instance, if Pashinyan comes out and says that he will allow a extraterritorial corridor to connect Azerbaijan and Turkey, if Armenia makes such an announcement, basically Iran would have to go against the US, all the regional countries, and including Armenia itself, unfortunately, to protect Sunik. Is that what you're trying to say?
If there are some external powers that are guaranteeing this corridor. I'm not sure that Iran will be ready to deter, to prevent. But if there are no any external powers, if there are only Armenia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan deal, maybe Iran can try to do something on this way. And when I was there, right, the same day, head of Armenian MFA Arat Mirzoyan was also in Tehran. And day after, when I was talking with our diaspora, they described that the terrible situation that they are working on, because as they told our embassy, unfortunately, is working also against their interests. So that's another discussion. But they told that the point, I don't know, I'm not like 100% that this is true, but all diaspora that are in charge of communications with the Iranian officials, etc., they told that our head of Armenia's MFA statement was to Iranians was, do not do anything. We are on our way to reach a peace deal. Everything will be fine. Don't worry, etc., etc. So do not try to do anything that might crash or might
interfere, or
some don't try to create any obstacles towards this deal, because we are reaching it. That was their point to Iranians.
And I have the same feeling about the ambassadors, the Armenian ambassadors to the US, to Russia. They're basically, from my perspective, blockages to communication with the diasporas. What I have a question about the Iranian community, since you mentioned it. First of all, what is the perspective of our community over there, if you were able to connect with any of them about the conflict that's going on? And also, are Iranians in general aware of the threats along their northern borders? And what's their public's disposition towards Armenia and Armenians?
What about Iranian society? They are much more better informed rather than Russian society. All of them know about Artsakh. All of them know about Nagorno-Karabakh. Most of them know about humanitarian disaster. Russia TV media, they do not cover this catastrophic situation. All of them are covering Ukraine, West, Poland, etc., etc. When I was there, I had a couple interviews in top Iranian media, Tasnim media, and some other podcasts that are also government backed. So they pay attention to South Caucasus, they pay attention to Nagorno-Karabakh, and also our diaspora is working on this way. They're doing amazing work there. That's, I cannot even compare it with Russian media. So it's impossible. What about our community there? They're also in bad situation because of economic reasons, like in Iran in general. And as I see, when the window of opportunities will be open to leave Iran, most of them, they will. And unfortunately, they will move to the US or Canada, and they will not move to Armenia. But that community, our community leadership asked us to prepare some educational programs for Armenians youth in Iran. They are ready to fund their transfer to Armenia, to have all our educational courses, to create a network here in order to move to Armenia, because most of them, they are preparing to move to the US. And now we will work with our community in Iran on keeping Iranian Armenians in Armenia rather than in the US and in Canada.
Well, maybe I should ask the same question about the Russian community and the Russians in Russia, since you have been there very often. I've actually been hearing consistent reports that the influence of the Armenian community in Russia has been waning over the past few years, and also that of the Azeri voices is rising. Can you talk a little bit about this also?
Yeah, sure. First, for a long time, our problem towards Russia was because of we saw Russia as our ally, and that's it. So we didn't work on keeping this ally as an ally. Because we were convinced that, okay, if we have ally on paper, that's forever. So we shouldn't do anything on this way. At the same time, Azeris, they were working on creating alliances, creating new allies, like in Belarus, Russia, Kazakhstan, Israel, etc., etc. We didn't do that. Previously, our previous ambassador was working on this way. Now, like, first, a lot of people from Armenian diaspora in Russia, they moved to Armenia when Ukraine war started. Second, our embassy conducts policy that comes from official Yerevan. As you see, official Yerevan today, it doesn't want to see Russia as a major ally for Armenia. So that's why our embassy is limited, and to be honest, it does nothing. Comparing on how Azerbaijani department in Russian MFA works and how Armenian department in Russian MFA works, like they have wide agenda. I mean, Azerbaijan department have a wide agenda that comes from Azerbaijan embassy. It comes from Turkish embassy, and Armenian department, like they're working, preparing visits, some events, etc., because there is no agenda. And I don't see that really today's Armenia that we want to cooperate more with Russia rather than with France, US, or other countries. But Azerbaijan continuously is working on this way.
As a final section of our show today, let's talk about the current state of the talks between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Late last week, Pashinyan pleaded that the reason why Azerbaijan is not signing a quote peace treaty unquote is because it's trying to make it possible to have future claims against sovereign Armenian territory. There is also mention of Azerbaijan not agreeing to a specific version of the maps that will be used for demarcation, and that's also sort of in line with Azerbaijan's goals. But to most Armenians, I dare say the main issue is that the Artsakh blockade is at a catastrophic point, and the lack of international reaction to it is now putting their cause towards self-determination in a deep hole. But with Pashinyan, we're 1,000 steps behind the curve, defending Armenia's own sovereignty. What are the Artsakh government's prospects given the blockade, the Russian peacekeepers, and the West that is deaf to calls for a fair solution?
Peace treaty might happen one day, but it won't bring peace. It won't bring peace. And also, Nicole is right. Nicole is right when he's stating that this peace deal will not keep Syunik, this peace deal will not keep some other regions. So if it doesn't give any kind of guarantees of ensuring and securing all Armenian territory, why we are working on this way? For sure, Azerbaijan wants they stated it's on all official levels. They want to have Syunik, they want to have all eastern part of Armenia that comes from Sevan. They want to have their presence in Arat region. So Azerbaijani strategy on this way it's clear. What is our strategy? If we agree that Azerbaijan wants to take Syunik, why did we recognize Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan? Yeah, even from pragmatic point of view, we could keep Artsakh as a buffer zone to secure Syunik, to secure Vayodor and other regions. This is about Nicole's statement. What about peace deal? Like, Nicole promised a lot. He promised a lot. He promised that he will recognize Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan. He promised to transfer part of Tavush and Aurat region to Azerbaijan. Now they're discussing of Azerbaijani community of Armenia, their security guarantees, etc., etc. Yeah, Azerbaijan is preparing lists of of Azeris who lived many years ago in Armenia, and Armenia should provide security guarantees. Armenia should provide all staff to keep them in Syunik and other regions. So we are discussing. I mean, we are discussing these issues today.
Why are we discussing these issues at all? They were not part of the November 9 ceasefire or anything. None of those things have come to pass. So why is he even talking?
All these points, they were preconditions from Turkey in Azerbaijan for a peace deal. Azerbaijan, the right takes. For example, Lachin corridor, then Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan, then so-called enclaves in Tavush and Aurat regions, then so-called Azerbaijani population in Armenia, etc., etc., etc. For example, a year ago, Turkey raised an issue about Metamor plant.
Power plant, yeah.
Power plant, yeah. So we don't have any guarantees that, for example, Turkey will have a precondition that Armenia should close this power plant. Yeah, because this is from Turkish perspective, it might be any kind of a security threat for them, but this is a guarantee of Armenian independence in electricity. And
it brings the energy dependency on its neighbors. Absolutely.
Yeah, and for Turkey, it's unacceptable. Yeah, well, for Azerbaijan, it's also unacceptable. So they are not interested in peace deal. So in this case, Nicole is right. So, and what we are doing in order to secure all Armenia, we recognize Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan. We are discussing so-called enclaves. We are preparing communications to open a checkpoints on Armenia-Azerbaijan border. We reject cooperation security sphere with Iran. We're rejecting getting some military assistance from Iran, etc., etc. This is what we are doing today.
So is Armenia doing anything for Artsakh today?
Armenia does something, but is it relevant? I'm not sure. Yeah, Armenia asked all external actors, all international institutions, organizations, but try to model the situation like if you are sitting in, I don't know, in Portugal. Armenia,
in the middle of Europe.
In the middle of Europe. Armenia, that recognized Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan, asked some X country to condemn Azerbaijani policy in Nagorno-Karabakh, but this is part of Azerbaijan. So it means that you are trying to interfere in some other independent country internal affairs. So if Armenia does nothing on this way, why should I care? So who will care? That's the problem. This is why that statement, and it's important to mention that also after Nikol Pashinyan, head of Armenian MFA, Arat Mirzoyan, also stated that he recognized Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan. So we blocked our opportunities to work not only on the higher level, but also on diplomatic level, on the level of MFA. Yeah. So what we are going to do in this way? Nothing.
Yeah, it certainly puts us in a very, very difficult position. What are Artsakh government's prospects, independent of Armenia, given the blockade, the Russian peacekeepers, all that we talked about, and, a West that is deaf to its calls for a fair solution?
I don't know. I don't know, to Artsakh now. I was talking with my friends who are there. They told me that we are coming back to end of 80s in the beginning of 90s. So if Armenia doesn't change itself, I don't know how we can keep Artsakh. So
Yeah.
it's possible. It's impossible.
Yeah. One development that happened, I think, maybe 10 days ago, I can't remember exact dates, was that Artur Tovmasyan, the parliament speaker in Artsakh, resigned. Hovik, can you tell us a little bit about why he might have resigned and what are the options and prospects for electing a new speaker this week?
So we actually do have a new speaker, and that speaker's name is David Ishkhanyan, member of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation faction in the Artsakh parliament. The reason that Artur Tovmasyan resigned, very unclear. I mean, he's a member of the Azad Hellenic party in Artsakh, obviously Arayik Harutyunyan's party, and he made this stupid speech in parliament about 15 days ago or so forth, saying that Armenians and Azerbaijan specifically have lived side by side for thousands of years. So the meaning of that statement could be misinterpreted, and it's not even clear why he did that. So apparently he resigned for that statement de facto, but de jure he said that health, family, blah blah blah. So bottom line is that the Azad Hellenic party in Artsakh has ceded its power in parliament to the opposition, to the Armenian Revolutionary Federation. And it's interesting because David Ishkhanyan's nomination was not proposed by the opposition itself, I believe. I believe it was proposed by the ruling party. And the opposition, the rest of the opposition cautiously welcomed this, but in reality, if the ability of Artsakh as a presidential country to change anything on the ground is very low, then the ability of the Speaker of the Parliament in Artsakh is even less. I think he's second in line to the presidency if Arayik resigns, so that'd be an interesting development. All in all, I think it is a positive note, at least within Artsakh, that we have more national forces and more, at least, for those, in the Armenian opposition, this would be a very welcome development.
Hovik, I'm just amazed at the integrity of the system where somebody in government in Artsakh can say the wrong thing and then take responsibility, accountability, and resign for having said something stupid, as opposed to in Armenia, where you can spit on people and you can torture people and you can jail the opposition and not have to resign. That's become the norm.
Well, I think it's a matter of political discipline, political environment, and the fact that I disagree. I would say that powers in Armenia are not so stupid and not so innocent. But going back to the situation in Artsakh, yes, small positive development within the limits of what is possible to do in Artsakh. It would be interesting to see what happens next. There's a lot of calls for Arayik Harutyunyan's resignation, and I suspect that with David Ishkhanyan leading the parliament or being the Speaker of Parliament, those voices of the opposition in Artsakh would be louder, at least.
Yes, interesting development. Let's see what Ishkhanyan can do. All right, I'm going to wrap up our topics here. I'd like to ask each of you if there's been something on your mind this past week that you would like to share with us. Hovik, you want to go first?
I tried to think about something to rant about other than Armenia, but I can't. So I'm going to continue ranting about the situation that we have here. Over this weekend, there was the opening of the pan-Armenian Games in Gyumri, and the de facto prime minister was invited to talk, and they showed a video of him, walking the streets. It was one of the most awkward videos I watched, where you could see the sweat coming down the foreheads from the security detail who were looking left and right, and everyone in general looked very tense. But to me, I was still disappointed that apparently that's the limit of outraging in Gyumri and Armenia in general, where still, someone who has done so much to destroy Armenia's statehood is able to walk the streets. And maybe they did a good job of editing, so we couldn't even hear the calls of traitor and so forth and whatever else that people may shout. But it was still there. No one seemed to challenge him physically, at least, which is very interesting.
Okay. Sergei, is there anything on your mind you would like to share?
Yeah, a couple of points. I would like to agree with Hovik about recent developments in Artsakh. So, a couple consequences. First, it shows that Artsakh there is a real democracy in Artsakh comparing with Armenia. First, pro-Turkish narrative was defeated by pro-Armenian narrative. And third, the problem is I'm not sure that it's possible to organize any kind of elections in Artsakh. There should be some internal agreement between elites to change the configuration.
Yeah.
That was from Hovik's part. And I would like to add a couple things about last poll that was conducted by Gallup. And there are a lot of good signs. First, it's obvious that for Armenian population, a situation in Artsakh, situation on borders, and security issues in general are much more important rather than social and economic situation in Armenia. It's about priorities. Second point, more than half population they do not trust to Nikol Pashinyan. According to the poll, 54.4% they didn't trust Nikol's announcement and statements and answers during his last interview. Third point, the number of people that strongly disagree with the perspective of future of Artsakh as a part of Azerbaijan increased, comparing same poll was in May this year. Like this year, 94.4% they were strongly against this perspective, comparing with the couple months ago. The number was 86.4%. So this number increased. And last indicator, decreasing of level of support of a ruling party. Now it's just 30% of population support them.
All right, we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you, Sergei, for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sergei Jan, thank you as always.
All right, that's our show. We hope you found our weekend review helpful. We invite your feedback and your suggestions. You can find us on most social media and podcast platforms. The links are in our show notes. Talk to you next week.